Victor had awoken, and frankly, he was exhausted. He had just spent the past several days nearly living only on potions, bandages, and the occasional nap that was mostly spent just trying to gain energy to continue forward and propel his tired mind. Unfortunately, due to this, he was, well, more than a little bit tired. But now he found himself in the realm of shadow, and to make matters worse, he wasn't entirely sure if he could even survive here. There was no time to rest. An odd creature had approached him, but it was babbling about nonsense regarding him being a sir or some other. He motioned it away, and it had obeyed him. The shadows themselves seemed to warp slightly in this area, granting him vision and allowing him to continue forward. He didn't quite know what to make of that. Only that he needed to find someone that actually was coherent enough to provide him answers, not more questions. And of course, as he thought such, a ghostly image would appear of an incredibly attractive woman, her voice deep. The ghostly visage speaks to you, her words ethereal. You are strange, strangers. That sounds fairly odd coming from a glowing woman. Who are you? I am only a shadow. I am the wind in empty spaces. I am the Shadow Queen. Although the creature had muttered something about this being his estate now, he didn't really understand that enough or think of this place enough to be such a thing. Instead, he'd say, "What are you doing here?" They are coming now. They are the ones who dream. We are their nightmares. They dream of you as well. What on earth are you talking about? Please, you must listen. Don't you understand? You must travel to the tower. I have lost my light. Out of the dreaded eternities, the vast abyss of night, the twilight festival will rise and shine, then pass from human sight. The blind old king in granite wrapped, and within cavernous hold, will wake, raised aged hands, and shake his rings of gold. Down will topple pennon bright, and endless ruin hurl. Their blades of light will strike fire from night and take all light from the world. Victor would groan into his hands. Riddles. He hated riddles. He was having flashbacks to the little fairy dragon. And to make things worse, he was going on a downhill path right now. She'd spoke of time being short, but he didn't even understand what time really was in this realm yet. Similarly, she was speaking of taking all light from the world, but he was fairly certain she meant this plane of existence. Hopefully. He had already saved the world once. He would rather take a bit of time to recover, especially considering the fact he was not exactly functional right now.
Still, he would try to keep the words in his tired mind. Perhaps someone else would have a bit more useful information to offer him for now. Ahead was another shadow servant, and he would tiredly move forward. This one bowed to him as well. He wasn't quite certain what was going on.
Greetings, my lord. You do not look comfortable here in the shadows. This one asks what brings you back to your estate. Perhaps to visit the festival?
Oh, there's a lot in that statement that makes Victor's head ache just from the thoughts, but he's going to try to piece everything together. First things first, who are you?
This one has no name. He lives only to serve the lord of this estate.
Well, this estate originally was of the Shadow Liches. Slowly, Victor's mind began to piece something together, a theory, in his tired mind. Perhaps by striking down the tyrant of a lich, the shadows had accepted him as the new ruler of this place? It didn't really make that much sense, but it was something, at least. What do you mean, Lord of this estate? Wasn't that the Shadow Lich? Is my theory correct?
You defeated our old lord, the Shadow Lich. This estate is now yours, though you cannot pass through its walls, as we can. This one fears you may be confined to these, your chambers.
Well, that clarifies that at least. It means that certainly it appears he has inherited the Shadow Lich's land, as it were. He wasn't quite sure if that terminology worked properly in this place, considering everything appeared to shift in and out of existence. But it was at least a start to him understanding the situation. And he supposed this was a good thing. Theoretically, that meant he might actually have a safe location for himself in this plane. Though only time would tell, he had to assume. This is a good question, however. Are the shadows always so quick to accept a new master?
The past lord was not the kindest of masters, my lord. Indeed, the plane of shadows is not the kindest of places. If you were to wander beyond the walls of your estate, you would no doubt suffer grave indignities. But your guards stay true to you, as do the servants. This servant, too, has accepted that you are here by right. The rest will learn in time. For now, keep your travels to a minimum, however.
It's a lot for poor Victor to take in. Supposing this was all accurate, he now had a small sector of guards and servants at his heeding call in the realm of shadows. Ironic, considering his name, Vaughn, but he had not actually represented that nobility in his name for, well, many years. Despite this, right now it would certainly serve him well. He could still feel his injuries aching. Healing potions only mended wounds temporarily. It was not a guaranteed solution, especially for a long-term period where one had not slept and was going through extensive physical abuse. If there was somewhere that he could rest here, recover, properly equip himself, and try to experiment with this new plane, well, it might at least allow him to get back on his feet. As much as he would be eager to return to the material plane, he, sadly, didn't really have anyone to come back to. The Harpers, of course, were there, but his master was dead, his friend was dead, he had never been close to Xanos. Deacon had been interesting, but he certainly wouldn't call them close allies by any means. He would be fine without him. All in all, he'd saved the world at a terrible cost, and, well, in return, had time. And there was this Mistress of Shadows, or whatever her damn name was, of course, but this realm's problems were not really his concern until he could at least form a proper thought. For now, gathering information and recovering was his prime objective. And since this servant was so happy to provide him with such things, he would be certain to use it as much as possible. Now, obviously the shadow can travel through walls. However, this might give him some insight into how the plane of shadow works. Does this mean the walls are actually solid?
This one was born in shadow, and shall die in it as well. Walls have no meaning here, save for the likes of my lord. Perhaps if you stay for untold years, as did the Shadow Lich, you too shall become as Shadow. Until then, you rule an estate you cannot see, and this one shall seem only your subject. Lonely is the mantle of ownership, my lord.
Interesting. So his initial theory had been correct. These walls didn't actually have much of a meaning. Likely they had been originally formed by the Shadow Lich while he was still of a semi-material substance, but it was difficult to form coherent thoughts and what possibly to call himself or any beings like him. However, with these thoughts clarified the idea that whatever was guarding him here was likely limited to this area, since the estate itself was meaningless. It was likely that the guards had a perimeter set up around the estate and within it, keeping it safe. Land, quote unquote, likely had little meaning in this place. Perhaps it was closer to the theory of evolutionary planes. It was less a flat land and more an orb that he could call his estate, a small miniature dimension within the plane of shadows. He would have to do further testing when his mind was in a proper place in order for him to truly understand it, however. Unfortunately, dimensional understanding had been very low on the list of priorities to learn while under Drogon. He never assumed he'd be traveling the other planes, not besides the prime material, of course. He knew the basics, but that was about it. Since this was the Shadow Lich's lair, perhaps he would finally get the chance to study properly and have his knowledge catch up to his experience. Only time would tell, he supposed. Very well. Assuming all of this is correct, then how can you serve me?
There is no better place for rest than darkness, my lord. And this one brings the finest wares of this estate's fine laborers. They are gifts, but by tradition the estate lord always pays in honor.
So, more likely, the idea of gift is just a formality. That's odd, though. What purpose does money... Not that he was at a lack of funds, but did the different realms use the same currency as the prime material plane? Ugh, so many questions and so much he needed to study. A lack of information in a new plane of existence would be the death of him. The wares can wait. First, tell me about this festival you mentioned. Is there anything immediate that I need to know about it?
The Festival of Twilight, the Shadow Realm's holiday. Representatives from all of the inhabitants of the plane attend a festival at the palace, while local festivals carry on in villages and such. This one knows of such a village festival nearby.
It does sound interesting. I'd like to know where it is, but I certainly won't be partaking just yet.
The Gloamings of Dunswich have set up the festival bordering their home near the Darklands. Your portal is already primed to take you there. Merchants have come from faraway places. It should prove most interesting, my lord.
My portal has been primed? What all did the Shadow Lich have here?
The former lord of this estate has localized a shadow portal in the spell research room. Given will and time, the portal allows him to travel to faraway places. I am certain you will learn to use this tool as he did, my lord.
Tell me more about this estate, then. Clearly it has a portal. The Lich was clearly not without his means.
You defeated our old lord, the Shadow Lich. This estate is now yours, though you cannot pass through its walls as we can. This one fears you may be
Oh, okay, I read this already. Whoops, sorry guys. I suppose leave me be for now. Now, actually, wait, you did mention wares. Yeah, fine. I shall see these shadow wares. I am very tired, but I need to remove this weight I'm dragging around, if nothing else. Unfavorable, despite being the lord of this area, huh? Huh, that's quite useful. Okay, so I'll have him sell all his Netherian artifacts, and then we will return once he begins to explore this place. Alright, so he has sold most of his stuff. He kept a few things just because he intended to see if he could combine or enhance them with other alchemical ingredients, and now he's taken them out and organized them a bit because, assuming that the Shadow Lich's lair is now his, there should be a laboratory around here somewhere. And if he can use it, he can finally lighten his load a little bit and put all these things to use. With that in mind, he's also taken notice that the Lich has several bone wands and empty scrolls and empty potion bottles. So he can, if there is in fact a laboratory, they can certainly put it all to use. Hall of Changing Mists, the Estate Library, Estate Zoo, and Laboratory. Well, before that, he is going to return to the shadow creature that approached him initially and was babbling about some nonsense he just did not understand. Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos and don't want to miss out on future content, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. If you'd like to support me on a more personal level, offer recommendations, chat with me, or vote on future series, then consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you once again for all your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next chapter of our story.